What's up, Steelers Nation? Before we dive into today's breaking news, let's take a second to appreciate the mindset this team is in right now. The Steelers are pushing to perfect every aspect of their game, week by week, drive by drive, and the results are starting to show. The energy in the locker room is electric, and the front office, led by Omar Khan, is showing no signs of slowing down when it comes to building a true contender. So before we get into this massive trade rumor that could shake up the AFC North race, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's talk some Steelers football. The Steelers sit at 3-1 heading into their Week 5 bye, standing alone atop the AFC North. It's been a roller coaster of early season challenges, but Pittsburgh has shown resilience and steady improvement. The defense is finding its rhythm again, the offensive line is starting to gel, and the overall chemistry is clearly improving. But here's the thing. With 13 straight games to close out the regular season, depth and firepower are going to matter more than ever. That's why Omar Khan could be eyeing a blockbuster trade that not only strengthens the roster, but also positions Pittsburgh for its first division crown since 2020. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Reports are swirling around the league that the New Orleans Saints, yes, the same team sitting near the bottom of the NFC South, may be open for business. According to insider Nick Underhill, New Orleans is listening to offers on several key veterans as they quietly begin to retool their roster. Underhill posted on X, formerly Twitter, "There are teams interested in some of the Saints' veteran players, and they'll be watching to see who becomes available in the coming weeks. There's a feeling around the league that New Orleans will be open to hearing offers." This has immediately caught the attention of the Steelers front office, because if the Saints start unloading talent, Pittsburgh could be one of the biggest beneficiaries. Let's start with the biggest name that's got Steelers fans buzzing, Chris Olave. Olave was the 11th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, and during his college career at Ohio State, he was nothing short of dominant. In the pros, his production has been solid, but hasn't yet matched his full potential, partly because of inconsistent quarterback play in New Orleans. Imagine this, Olave lining up opposite DK Metcalf, two elite receivers with complementary skill sets. Metcalf's physicality and vertical dominance paired with Olave's route running and separation ability. Defenses would have no idea where to focus, and for the first time in years, the Steelers' passing game could become one of the most feared in the league. And here's the kicker. Olave is still young, affordable, and under team control. That's exactly the kind of trade piece Omar Khan loves. If the Saints decide to keep Olave, there's another intriguing name that could fit in Pittsburgh, Rashid Shaheed. Shaheed went undrafted out of Weber State, but has quickly made a name for himself as one of the league's most explosive deep threats. He's got blazing speed, elite return ability, and a knack for making big plays in clutch moments. And he's in the final year of his rookie deal, meaning New Orleans could move him for mid-round compensation instead of losing him for nothing next offseason. Shaheed could slide right into that third receiver role, behind DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin, especially with Austin battling a shoulder injury. He'd give Pittsburgh a true field stretcher and special teams boost, two areas the team has been trying to upgrade all season. But it's not just about offense, though. On defense, the Saints have two names that could seriously interest the Steelers, Cameron Jordan and Carl Granderson. Jordan, a 7-time Pro Bowler, has been the heart and soul of the Saints' defense since 2011. At 36, he's nearing the twilight of his career, but make no mistake, this guy can still rush the passer with authority. If the Saints are indeed open to moving veterans, Jordan might want one more shot at a Super Bowl, and Pittsburgh would be an ideal destination for a respected leader like him. Then there's Carl Granderson, who spent 7 seasons with New Orleans and remains a quietly effective edge rusher. He's not as decorated as Jordan, but he's consistent, durable, and could add much-needed depth behind T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith. Adding a player like Granderson would also give defensive coordinator Terrell Austin more flexibility in rotational schemes, helping keep Watt fresh for that brutal late-season stretch. One reason this trade chatter feels very real is simple. Pittsburgh has the ammunition. The Steelers currently hold 12 total picks for the 2026 NFL Draft, including multiple mid-round selections that could be used as trade chips. With the draft ironically being hosted in Pittsburgh that year, the front office has a rare combination of leverage and opportunity. It's highly unlikely that any of these Saints players, even Olave, would command a first or second-round pick. That means a deal could realistically get done using a mix of third, fourth, and fifth-round selections. Given Khan's aggressive but calculated trade history, it wouldn't be shocking to see him pull the trigger if the right opportunity presents itself before the trade deadline. While we're on the topic of roster depth, another interesting storyline is developing behind the scenes. Former Steelers wide receiver Brandon Johnson, who was waived after a preseason injury, is attempting an NFL comeback. Johnson had a strong preseason before suffering a serious ankle injury that ended his chances of making the 53-man roster. He's now reportedly close to full health and recently worked out for the New York Giants, marking his first team visit since being released. At 27, Johnson has shown flashes as both a receiver and special teams contributor, catching 26 passes for 335 yards and 5 touchdowns over 23 career games. He's got experience in kick and punt coverage and could be a valuable depth piece for a team looking for versatile veterans. For now, the Steelers seem comfortable with their current wideout rotation: DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III, Scotty Miller, Ben Skowronek, and rookie Roman Wilson. But if injuries pile up, don't rule out a reunion. As the Steelers prepare to resume their season after the bye, everything points to one thing: winning now. The team sits atop the AFC North with winnable games on the horizon and a defense that's heating up at just the right time. Omar Khan knows that this window won't stay open forever, and with the kind of trade flexibility Pittsburgh has, the idea of adding a proven playmaker, whether it's Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, or even a veteran pass rusher, could be exactly what takes this team from contender to favorite. Let's rewind for a moment. The Steelers' offense finally started to click during their 26-17 win over the Minnesota Vikings in Ireland in Week 4. It wasn't flashy, it was efficient, controlled, and most importantly, effective.
Aaron Rodgers looked far more comfortable under center, throwing for 200 yards and a touchdown, showing flashes of that vintage Rodgers accuracy we saw back in Week 1. The offensive line gave him enough time to make plays, and the run game did just enough to keep Minnesota honest. That performance was exactly what Pittsburgh needed heading into their Week 5 bye: momentum. But now, the team faces a much bigger challenge: a Week 6 road trip to face the Cleveland Browns, and their defense is no joke. Let's be clear, the Cleveland Browns defense is playing at an elite level right now. Through 4 games, they've piled up 14 sacks and have looked absolutely relentless up front. Myles Garrett continues to be a wrecking ball on the edge, while interior disruptors like Dalvin Tomlinson and Shelby Harris have dominated against the run. Add in a physical secondary and disciplined linebackers, and you've got a defense that doesn't really have a clear weakness. That's exactly what Steelers insider Ray Fittipaldo emphasized this week when discussing how difficult this matchup will be for Arthur Smith's offense. From week to week in the NFL, it's all about matchups. It's going to be really interesting to see what Smith comes up with against the Browns. They are so well-rounded on defense. Fittipaldo went even further, saying there really isn't an obvious area for Pittsburgh to attack. I don't know that there's a weakness you can pick out and say, hey, we're going to attack them this way. That's a tough matchup for the Steelers' offense. That's a pretty clear warning, and it means Arthur Smith will need to be at his absolute best when crafting the game plan for Week 6. The offensive line faces its biggest test yet. The key to this game, without question, lies in the offensive line. Guys like Broderick Jones and rookie Troy Fautanu have been showing steady improvement each week, but they'll need to play nearly perfect football against the Browns' front seven. Protecting Aaron Rodgers is priority number 1. If Cleveland gets consistent pressure, the entire offensive rhythm could fall apart. We know Myles Garrett is capable of taking over games by himself. He's done it before against Pittsburgh. The line will need help from tight ends, running backs, and creative blocking schemes to slow him down.
Expect Arthur Smith to call plays that use Rodgers' quick release and pre-snap adjustments to neutralize that pass rush as much as possible. One of the best ways to frustrate an aggressive defense is with timing and precision, and that's Rodgers' specialty. However, the Steelers might be a little short-handed at wide receiver. Calvin Austin III suffered a shoulder injury in Ireland, and his status for Week 6 remains uncertain. That puts more pressure on veteran DK Metcalf, who had a monster 126-yard performance overseas. If Austin can't go, look for Pittsburgh to lean on Scotty Miller, Roman Wilson, and possibly Ben Skobarak to step up. Don't be surprised if Arthur Smith also uses the tight ends more often. Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington could play huge roles in short and intermediate routes to keep the chains moving. Rodgers will need to find his rhythm quickly. A couple of early completions, some tempo, and maybe even a big play-action shot could go a long way toward setting the tone. Now let's talk about what might actually decide this game: the running attack. The Browns have the top run defense in football heading into Week 5. That's not an exaggeration. They've been shutting down just about everyone, limiting opponents to minimal yardage and forcing them to abandon the run entirely. But Pittsburgh's duo of Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell could be the X factor here. Warren missed the Vikings game with an injury, but if he's cleared to return, he could be a major difference maker. His balance, burst, and ability to make defenders miss in space would be crucial against a defense that thrives on collapsing the pocket. Meanwhile, Gainwell is coming off the best game of his NFL career: 99 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns in Ireland. He ran with power, vision, and confidence, showing why the Steelers trusted him as the next man up. If Arthur Smith can establish the ground game early, it'll force Cleveland to respect the run, opening up play-action opportunities for Rodgers. That's where he's at his deadliest. Now, all eyes are going to be on Arthur Smith this week. He's faced plenty of criticism in the past for being too predictable, but this game gives him a chance to prove how adaptable he can be. Expect to see motion, misdirection, and maybe even some design rollouts for Rodgers to change launch points and keep the defense guessing. Screens and quick passes to the running backs could also help slow down that Browns pass rush. If Arthur Smith can find a rhythm early, mixing short passes, power runs, and timely deep shots, this Steelers offense could surprise a lot of people. Now let's not forget what's at stake here. The Steelers currently sit alone atop the AFC North at 3-1. A win against Cleveland would not only give them even more breathing room, but would also send a message that this is Pittsburgh's division to lose. With the Bengals struggling, the Ravens inconsistent, and the Browns relying heavily on defense, this is the moment for the Steelers to seize control. The bye week gave them extra time to rest, study film, and refine the game plan, and now it's time to execute. So here's the question, Steelers fans. If you were Omar Khan, who would you trade for? Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, or a defensive leader like Cameron Jordan? Would you risk a mid-round pick to bring in another playmaker for the stretch run? Drop your thoughts down below. I love hearing your takes. This kind of discussion is what makes Steelers Nation so special. We care, we debate, and we expect greatness from this franchise. And as always, if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more exclusive Steelers coverage like this, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. This is your home for bold Steelers talk, insider updates, and everything black and gold. Here we go, Steelers Nation. Let's ride.